So for me, it was alcohol, lots of alcohol. Ended up being about a gallon and a half of vodka every day.
I'm Ann Hofferberth, and I'm here with the Beyond Addiction podcast from Gulf Breeze Recovery. And today we're going to speak to one of Gulf Breeze Recovery's graduates, Steve Holcomb. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Great. I'm so happy that you were able to do this.
I'm thrilled to be here.
That's what people always wonder. What was the addiction you were trying to manage when you came to GBR?
So for me, it was alcohol, lots of alcohol. Ended up being about a gallon and a half of vodka every day, day and a half, about a gallon a day of vodka. And of course, like I guess every addiction, it progressively got worse. So from age 14 with a couple beers here and there to, the time I got here 6 years ago, it did nothing but progress.
Wow. And were you thinking you were hiding that from people?
Well, as you know, it's a sneaky, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. As you know, it's a sneaky disease. I didn't realize how bad it was until it was really bad. And I was watching my body change kind of in front of me. In those last few weeks, I knew that I needed to do something.
Very good. Now, how did you find Gulf Breeze Recovery?
So it's kind of funny. I reached out to a family member who just happened to live here. I did not live in Gulf Breeze, but she likes the finer things in life. And I had told myself in my drunken state that if I was going to go do this, I wanted to go somewhere nice, and I knew she would know. So I reached out to her, which is very unlike me to reach out to ask for help. And she immediately said she knew of a place. She needed to confirm the name. She got back with me and told me it was Gulf Breeze Recovery, or GBR as we affectionately call it. And I placed the call.
Wonderful. And had you been to other rehabs, Steve, or was this the first one?
So I think rehab is kind of interesting. Not having, yes and no. I'll qualify that. So I one night, probably about 6 months before I came here, I stood up and I told my wife to call my best friend and he would know where to take me. I needed help. And he took me to a place in my hometown at the time, and it had a lovely lobby. And they checked me in, and I went back in with all sorts of interesting people. And come to find out, really, that was where people got sent when they had, it was either that or jail time. And I didn't understand that. And so 3 or 4 days later, after they sedate you, I guess, I don't really remember, it's kind of a blur, I came out. And so I did that. And again, the disease is tricky. So I thought, well, this was pretty easy. And maybe a month later, I went on a vacation to a lake that we always go to. And I told my wife that I was going to have a couple drinks that weekend because this is easy. Well, that led to another few weeks. Of course, by now my brain's pretty pickled and not thinking real clear like it does, clear like it does today. But anyhow, much better. And I went to another one locally at the exact same result. Expecting something different, right? And I was sober. I was sober. That's about all I could say. My brain was still messed up. I wasn't where I needed to be. I was just doing my best to just get through the day. And then my wife said, let's go have some drinks. And I said, this is a bad idea, but I did it, of course. And I went on this crazy bender like I've never been on before in my whole life, ever. I think it was about 10 days or so. And that's during that 10 days is when I reached out to this family member. And boy, that was a great call. the intake person at the time was Kat, and I knew within moments that I was in the right place, um, wanting to come in style. I flew first class here, um, and she picked me up, and well, it was just the best thing I've ever done.
That's terrific. Now, some people say on the way, when they get picked up, which is so nice that they come and pick you up,
Right.
but on the way, they want to stop and have their last drink. Was that part of your pattern?
No, yeah, it's kind of funny. I think I left town about 10:30 in the morning. I had to stop in Atlanta. I had my drinks. I've been drinking for several hours before I had my friend pick me up, take me to the airport. Um, I think I had two on the first leg and one on the second leg. And no, I did not ask for another one. But they give you a breathalyzer test, and she goes, "Well, what do you think you're going to blow?" And I said, "Well, I really have only had 3 drinks today, other than, of course, this morning. I don't know, not much." And she laughed. She goes, "I bet it'll be more than you think." And I think I blew up a 2.38, which by most standards is pretty high. For me, I felt pretty straight, you know. It's
That
interesting.
is so funny.
Yeah.
Now, how was it your wife? Were there difficulties there because of your drinking, or was she okay?
Well, she is an alcoholic as well, or is, however you want to phrase that. And so when I went home, I had to deal with that as well. And so she actually came here about 10 days later, and went through her journey here as well.
That's wonderful, Steve, because then you just understand one another. You understand where you are and where you need to be.
Correct. Yeah.
That was a
Yeah. And I knew I couldn't go home to that situation as well. Right. So it was a big point in our life.
So tell me, when you came in, and Kat's wonderful, did you go to detox for a while?
I did. I went to
So that had to
detox.
be much different than the other places you were.
Yeah, well, I really don't remember the other places. I almost felt like they drugged me up so much I didn't know what was going on. So it was interesting. It was difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but it wasn't painful or anything like that. I remember Dr. E came in. He goes, "Steve, you've got to eat." And I said, he goes, "We're a 5-star restaurant here. What? Tell me anything you want." And I said, "I want seedless cubed watermelon." I know that's very random. Anyhow, he sent one of the team members here on a journey to go find me seedless watermelon late at night, and she came back with some. But you get through that. It wasn't fun, but it wasn't horrible process.
Right. And I think there's some comfort in knowing that Dr. E's been where you were.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that at the time, obviously, but yes, he was, and you're right in that little area where you're being, I guess, monitored and cared for. You're in good hands. You're not just sort of locked up and cast aside until you shake it off. You're cared for and loved for.
Right. Now, when you came out of detox, what was that transition like for you?
Well, obviously very hazy, um, um, very hazy, and go up to my room, and they said you can join these classes that are going on, and I kind of tiptoed into those classes, and just little by little immersed myself into the program.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about the therapy, because Gulf Breeze prides themselves in offering the most one-on-one therapy of any rehab. So talk about how that was for you.
Well, so how I got so fortunate to come here. It just blows my mind. It was just a random phone call, looking to go to somewhere luxury. But boy, did I come to the right place. So the 3 principles that they teach, but just all the different aspects that at the time I really didn't understand why we did everything that we did. But post and getting to spend time with some of the counselors after I left, and explaining why we do what we do here. But I can't say enough about Gulf Breeze Recovery. Just from the staff and how they care, uh, the full circle of education, from teaching the three principles to teaching you how to go outside and do activities without a vodka in your hand or a beer in your hand or whatever your drug of choice was, to reading books, and being quiet with yourself and not being stimulated maybe at a bar or at a party or whatever. It's really a full, I guess, 360 education system that I still use so much of it in my day-to-day life. I don't even realize it at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, the excursions are so important because you're not sure you can ever have fun again because you thought that was fun. Drinking was allowed you to relax and be with people and have fun. It isn't fun long term, but you think,
If
wow, if I can't drink, I'm not going to be able to go out.
I'm going to rent a boat or go out on my boat, I've got to have my cooler of beer. Yeah, that's the way the commercials portray it, right? It's sexy and fun, and that's how you have a good time. When in fact, it's far, far from the truth. You don't realize that necessarily while you're here. You may not realize it immediately after you get out, but as your head clears and you watch what goes on with people that have problems, and boy, there's a lot of people with problems, um, and you can look at it with a clear mind and go, that's not fun. There's nothing fun about that. There's nothing sexy about it. There's nothing fun about
Yeah, because the not fun part that I've become familiar with talking to you and others is that drives your day. Every day you wake up figuring out how am I going to get more to drink? Where am I going to get it? Where am
it.
I going to use it? And how it was just exhausting.
Exhausting. Absolutely. Yeah.
Terrible. So how do you rely on, you mentioned that you go back to the things you learned at GBR. Talk a little bit about that, and how do you rely on it? What are the situations where you talk to yourself based on the things you learned?
Yeah. So there's the three principles. So one of them is being present. And I'm not sure that I completely became a 3P prophet, so to speak, while I was here. But I told Barnett and my counselor, Becky, that I had enough of it. And I kind of sometimes get a little scatterbrained. But being present, the buzzwords, I'm real black and white. This was all kind of new stuff to me. I didn't really get it all, but being present is focusing on today and not yesterday, and not necessarily maybe tomorrow, right? We all have to look to tomorrow, right? Our business or whatever we're doing, but not worrying about things that aren't in your control. Or for me, not giving someone the power to get into my headspace and that hamster wheel we talk about, and giving Bob, and all of a sudden you've thought about Bob for an hour and what a jerk he is. When what did you accomplish in that hour by dwelling on Bob? You accomplished absolutely nothing. You actually wasted an hour that you could do something else with. And I didn't realize that. And we talk about these insights, and I didn't really understand that word. And a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, I'm driving to work, and I'm like, oh, that's what she was talking about. Oh, that's what they said would happen. And the little light bulb goes off, and I get it. I've had a real challenge with my work. That's a company that I started afterwards here, and it's a construction project, and it's been 60-day project, has been over a year and a half now, and I'm doing everything I can to make it happen. But I'll always go back to just be present and not give this guy your headspace. Just focus on what you can do and get it done and move on. And it's been invaluable because I think that in the past, if I was still drinking, well, I would have flipped out and wigged out and yelled and screamed and hired lawyers. And at the end of the day, I'd still be here a year and a half later trying to do what I'm trying to do. Wouldn't have accomplished anything.
Yeah. And the whole inside outside concept, that is a bit that it's an inside job. You can't look for an outside solution.
Right.
You're the solution, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
That's a big aha right there.
yeah, so I really use that one. One of the other ones, and my counselor spoke to this, was lowering my expectations. I was struggling with my wife who was drinking uh, while I was in here. Well, of course she is. She's an alcoholic, but my mind was a little pickled. I wasn't thinking real clearly, And she said, well, if you just lower your expectations to zero when she's slurring on the phone, she won't disappoint you so much. And it sounded so simple, like how can that be? But it works, and I still use that. In fact, even with this one individual that I'm dealing with, it helps me manage stress, manage anxiety, which anxiety is a big one, as you know. I learned a lot about anxiety here. Not only my own, but others that really struggle, mightily struggle with anxiety.
But you're really describing that. The only person you can manage is yourself and how you react. And so you have chosen the path to manage how you react.
Yep. And that just keeps sanity in my life.
Yeah. So what do you remember most from your time at Gulf Breeze Recovery? Funny, serious, whatever. What do you remember most?
Well, golly, it really is truly a great experience. So that's hard to pick just one, but the team that works here, if you think about it afterwards, you've got a bunch of addicts. So if you give them an inch, we'll take a mile, right? So there's structure, but yet they genuinely care. And my guess is many of these folks have had problems themselves and can relate back. I don't know their background, but that's kind of an assumption. And so they can appreciate what we're going through. I was shocked by how much they care, and it's not just coming here for 8 hours, or if you're 10 hours, or who the person is. The variety of things that we did, from the outdoor activities to swimming to going to the beach to the long days of coursework, and that there's a reason for everything we do. It's not just fill our day. I can't say enough about it. I used to say, and these are these insights that come over time, I used to say Gulf Breeze Recovery saved my life. And certainly it did. But after a period of years, I was able to look back and go, no, it actually gave me life as well, because life is so much better without alcohol. I mean, from the obvious of not waking up with a hangover, but the clarity, how you think you have to drink to relax, when how actually that was creating anxiety, and how much calmer life is without all this nonsense.
Yeah, that's terrific. That really is. Did you use the pool? I always wonder if somebody uses the pool.
I did. Noli, who is still here, the kind of athletic sports, I forget his title, but the director, he would go out. He would sometimes do training, like exercises in there, and but we just swam and had fun on our days, and yeah, absolutely, I used the pool.
That's terrific. And some people really like the fishing.
I mean, they go and get live shrimp for you, so you can go fishing off the pier. I mean, you can't ask for a better place than this. You're looking at yachts go by and watching dolphins play, and you get to fish or watch your friends fish that you make here. This place is special.
Because what you're describing is that you're living in an environment where you're worthwhile.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I guess that goes back to that caring that I was talking about.
Yeah. So how long have you been sober? How long have you been away from Gulf Breeze Recovery as a sober person?
So July 1 of this year, it will be 6 years that I checked in. So yeah, the best 6 years of my life. But they teach you no regrets, right? You can't look backwards. You can't take anything back. But boy, I sure wish I did this a long time ago. But I wasn't there. I wasn't at that point.
And has your wife maintained that too?
Oh yes, absolutely. Now she struggled differently than I did. She had crushing anxiety, which I had no idea. She was a sales manager for a hotel. She would go out and make calls and stuff. Very social and flit around and the social butterfly. But it was being masked by alcohol. Um, and um, and she knows that, that I talk about her when I come throughout the year and try to get back to the guests. Um, that anxiety for her is crushing. Where I think we all have anxiety. I have a little bit, I guess, nothing compared to what she has, and so she really had to keep working outside counsel after the fact for a period of time. And she'll always have this anxiety. This anxiety doesn't just magically go away, or at least not for her, but she knows how to manage it. And she feels the same way that I do, that just life is just the best.
Yeah, that's terrific. Now you mentioned you come back to Gulf Breeze, right?
I
Because you're
do.
so tell me what that's about.
So I come back, I try to come back on July 1. I try to come back on my birthday, and I try to come back 2 other times a year and get new guests every time. I love this place so much that if I can pay it forward, that's what I want to do. And the old phrase, if you can help one person, great. Hopefully I say something that resonates with more than just one. But I try to share what I've learned, what changes I made, and try to share those tidbits of, and it's their word, wisdom, but the wisdom, the things that I've learned on to help make their transition more successful, easier for them. And so my birthday, that's my best birthday present is being able to come here because I love this place.
That's wonderful because they're hearing it from a graduate that knows what they're going through right
Yep,
now.
yep.
That makes a big difference. Um, so tell me a little bit about your life now. You were saying you were working on this project, and your wife is doing better. Is Tell me what the life is now from where it was.
Oh my gosh. Well, I used to run hotels for a living. While I was here, I made a conscious decision to move here. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I needed a change, and I made a radical change. I don't think everybody should blow the world up, but I was in a position where I could. I sold my house. I moved here. My wife was in GBR while I was finding our house. Started a new company. So I run a tourism business on the beach. It's like hotels, but it's way more fun. And my little company has grown. I think one of the things I like about being my own boss, which I had no idea, is that I have more control over my day and the pressures from above. And so while we all have anxiety, um, it, that was an important move for me. I didn't realize that until after the fact.
Now, when you say that you run a tourist business, I'm sure there's alcohol involved with your guests that come. So, tell me a little bit about your managing that as well.
There are. Well, so I'm not actually on the boats. We do dolphin tours primarily. I'm not on the boat, but we sell ourselves as a very family friendly, or the Disney theme than some of the other ones. There's one boat. Well, I don't want to name the boat, but anyhow, it's more grown up and PG-13 or whatever themed, and so I think that helps a lot. But what I have learned is that yes, you're right. While on the beach, and people are drinking more, but what I didn't realize and an insight is that um, drinking like I drink was the exception and not the norm. That most people, even when they're out on a boat, don't show up and do things that I was being responsible, but I was drinking hard. I was managing that. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, there's drinking and then there's drinking.
drinking and then there's drinking. Yeah.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. So, what I want you to tell me what you want to say to somebody who's trying to figure out where they're going to go or how they're going to get help, what do you want them to know about Gulf Breeze recovery?
So I think it's very interesting. I had never been to an AA meeting before, and so some of my friends, and you make really good friends here, or we all do. They had gone to AA. They wanted to go to AA afterwards, and so I went to an AA. I went to 3 meetings with these folks, more for social activity because I didn't have a job. I was starting from scratch. I was planning I call it Holcomb 2.0. I was resetting myself, moving forward. And so Gulf Breeze Recovery talks about these 3 principles and how you're powerful and you're strong and what you are, you say you are. And what I took away from AA, and I know that I'm drilling down to just one little microcosm here, but AA was, you know, look to your higher power to get through the strength to make it another day. And these are people that are 10 years sober. To me, I found that depressing. And again, this is not an AA bashing thing. This was just a positive, your strength and you're strong, and the polar opposite of pray for me to make it through the day. I'm almost 6 years sober. I don't even think about booze. I haven't thought about booze for a long, long, long time. It's just a non-issue. It's just a past life that, again, no regrets, right? It just is what it is. Not ashamed of it, not proud of it. It just is what it is. Very proud of my current life.
Yeah, and again, the outside in thing is you're taking power and possession and control of yourself. You're not handing it over to someone else, and therefore you can blame them.
Right. You didn't pray hard enough for me today?
Yeah, no, it's a different approach, and it's nice to figure out you have that strength, isn't it?
It is. And I think just going back to this, you are what you say. If you say you're fat and ugly, well, then you're probably think of yourself as fat and ugly and weak and pathetic. If you say, man, I look good today, I'm strong, I like look at my clothes, my hair, you feel good about yourself, right? So that's kind of how I can contrast the two.
Yeah, and they talk so much about thoughts and the dialogue that happens in your head,
Yeah.
and how before you held on to that, and they're teaching you they're just thoughts.
Just thoughts, let it go. The hamster wheel, right? Don't give so and so that power to be in your headspace like that.
Yeah, yeah. Because the things that are said in your head, you would never allow someone to say to you.
No, never.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. It's so simple, but yet so profound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what else? Is there something I didn't ask you about or we didn't talk about that you think would be very helpful for this?
I don't know. I would just say to those that are on the fence, just do it. It's way easier. And my goodness, life is so much better without it. You don't realize that because the commercials don't show that. And when you think you're having fun up there at the bar, being loud and silly and repeating yourself, that's not fun. It's just not fun.
No, the payback is not fun, is it?
No, it's not.
Isn't it funny, though, that you got up every day and thought about where you were going to get a drink, and now you don't even think about it at all?
Yeah, I don't even think about it at all. Yeah.
I
It's
think the movies do it a disservice because the movies make it seem like if you're left alone with a drink, you can't handle yourself.
yeah, my wife and I, as we're watching movies, sometimes we'll just laugh and like, oh, and that's supposed to be fun. Yeah. Or the commercials, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate it. I just don't want to close without your ability to say more if you wanted to about anything.
Oh, I think again, like I said, just do it. It's so easy. It's not. Your life's going to be just so much profoundly better. And going through detox isn't going to be that painful. The people here, you've got 2 months of away from whatever is going on at your house, or 3 months, depending on how long you stay here. And you couldn't ask for a nicer place to do it than on the water's edge in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Um, it's an amazing place. Just do it.
Yeah, and people talk about the food a lot.
Oh my gosh, the food's amazing. The food is amazing. Lots of it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate your doing this, and I'm sure people are going to get a lot out of it because you're talking the truth.
I hope so, Ann. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you too.